The anxiety was like static electricity crackling through the tunnel as halftime drew near. It was the end of one of the most severe quarters in Indiana Fever history. But in the dressing room, things weren't quite as organized. Caitlin Clark charged at the seat, her jaw clenched and her eyes like daggers. Coach Stephanie White followed closely after, trying to provide directions above the throng of people with her clipboard in hand. Then it happened. Even if the cameras did not record the words, the emotion was clear. Clark, obviously annoyed, turned in mid-step and faced quite directly. She shook her head, pointed to the court, and snapped something, causing even the assistant coaches to freeze. It wasn't overly dramatic. It was sincere. This wasn't a diva's ostentatious breakdown. This elite competitor called for honesty, independence, and leadership. If you would prefer to view the unfiltered version of the story instead of the filtered one, subscribe now. If you intend to stay for the next meltdown, you should definitely subscribe. If you follow Clark's career from the packed college arenas in Iowa to the record-breaking WNBA crowds, you can tell right away that she doesn't sugarcoat anything. She plays with the fervor of someone trying to alter the rules in real time. She is also direct and opinionated. However, this was different at this specific time. It was more important than a single bad quarter or a rotation that was skipped. It was about the future of the Fever and whether or not Caitlin Clark would be able to be herself in this franchise. To tell the truth, Clark didn't sign with the WNBA to be a supporting cast member. For 4 years, she didn't light up college basketball, only to be disregarded or told to slow down so someone else could dribble the clock down. Because of her style, which includes quick threes, no-look passes, and quick breaks that start with a rebound, fans are paying to watch her. But since coming to Indiana, she has remained cautious. On the one side, you have the conventional way of thinking, low-scoring slugfests, grinded-out possessions, and settings built to support 10-year veterans. Coach White is comfortable in this circumstance. 35-foot branding shots and conspicuous transitional crossings don't appeal to her. Her role is to run plays through the veterans while upholding discipline and control. On the other hand, Clark's vision for the game includes up-tempo, chaos, pace, space offense, and creative flexibility. She was yelling plenty with her snap at halftime, and she is revolutionary rather than reckless. It has been evolving for a few weeks, one could say. The plays where Kelsey Mitchell dribbled into a contested mid-range shot while Clark was totally iced out, the miscuts, the delayed rotations. Beyond his emotions, Clark was irritated. It was computed. She is reading the floor 3 steps ahead while the system holds her back like sandbags on a rocket ship. By the start of the third quarter, everything had changed. Clark came out with a very new demeanor and anger in her eyes. She seemed to be switching a switch. She went from being a facilitator to an assassin after making 3 deep threes in less than 5 minutes. As the crowd went crazy and sat on the bench, Coach White said nothing. The team had clearly improved since Clark assumed leadership. Suddenly, the ball began to move. Co-workers were opening up by deliberately screening and cutting more firmly. Natasha Howard, who had been rigidly arming the offense, finally started to move at Clark's speed. Instead of pushing shots, Kelsey Mitchell provided Clark a transition assist, possibly sensing the shift. After a 30-point quarter, the team looked more like a postseason contender than a mid-tier mess. The post-game news conference was a maze, of course. Coach White responded in a conventional manner. "We made a modification." "Well, it was a good second-half effort," the squad replied, ignoring what had clearly occurred on national television. The altercation is not mentioned. But, Clark, she didn't sidestep it. "We're trying to build something here, and sometimes that means having difficult talks because we want to prevail," she continued, maintaining a steady stare. "I want to win." Interpretation: I'm not here to be courteous. I'm here to take the initiative. And you know what? She's not wrong. If they want to win, the Fever needs to hand her the keys and step aside. She is more than just their leading scorer. She is their greatest passer, floor general, communicator, and, in the end, their best chance to create a modern identity. The WNBA is evolving. The old methods are being replaced by speed, spacing, and star power. Clark is everything and more. However, that shift won't be easy. There are still veterans in that locker room who feel they have paid more dues. Some coaches still believe that organization is the key to safety. Some in the media continue to think that Clark's confidence is a sign of hubris. But here's the deal. Hesitancy is not the foundation of dynasties. They are based on courage, vision, and letting your best players mold the culture. And culture is at risk in this situation. There are more factors besides play calls and stat lines. The dilemma is whether the Indiana Fever want to be a team trapped in mediocrity, a mix of outdated strategies and seasoned egos, or if they are ready to be the team that rides with Caitlin Clark into the future. The fans have made the choice. In the arena, they yell her name. The item is selling out quickly. ESPN cuts to her reactions each time the ball is in her hands. She is more than just a beginner. She is a revolution. Like the halftime explosion, every revolution starts with the star finally saying out loud what everyone has been thinking. It's sufficient. I'll execute it. What happened at halftime was only a spark. But at the moment, a much bigger problem is becoming more prevalent. In Indiana and around the league, there is a smoldering problem. To be clear, when Caitlin Clark raged at her coach, she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was advocating on behalf of all athletes who had ever been hindered by an overly rigid system from realizing their full potential. For every star who is told to obey commands rather than taking the initiative, and for every novice who is expected to do the same. This isn't just a power struggle. Tradition and change are engaged in a culture war that is just beginning in women's basketball. Stephanie White is an example of a generation of coaches that develop their strategies through practice, discipline, and a one-size-fits-all playbook. To be fair, when a league was fighting for awareness and consistency in the early 2000s, that tactic worked. It was successful. In the past, gaining credibility seemed to depend on making as few mistakes as possible. However, things will be different in the 2025 WNBA. More than just efficacy is what fans want. They're trying to find flair. They want stars. They want speed, attitude, and 30-foot daggers that light up Twitter in real time. They want to feel emotion again. And that feeling is always evoked by Caitlin Clark. She's not a perfect athlete. She is not flawless. When she gets heat check shots, even devoted fans hold their breath. But you know what else she does? She puts pressure on defenses as soon as the ball touches her hands. She sees passes before they get there. She helps teammates, rivals, and the league as a whole play better. This coaching clash is crucial because of this. Disrespect has nothing to do with it. It is related to alignment. At the moment, Caitlin Clark is acting like a generational celebrity trapped in a role-playing environment. It is also seen in the body language and the rhythm of the game. The tempo slows and the offensive falters. Clark stands with his palms raised after another possession perishes in a corner. Moreover, contrary to popular belief, this is not a single game. This is a trend. The distance between a forward-thinking company and one that is too cautious to stay up is gradually widening. The video transcript makes it clear that not everyone is ready for the Clark era, so let's talk about the locker room now. There are guys on our team, especially veterans, who feel they ought to have decision-making power. For example, Kelsey Mitchell has been the face of the Fever for years. It's also clear how tense her play is. It's generational rather than personal. The ISOs, the poor passes, and the incapacity to alter Clark's tempo. Moreover, this issue is not exclusive to Indiana. This happens every time a young talent joins a squad with a lot of veterans. There is pride, ego, and the dread of being overtaken or replaced. But here's the disturbing truth. If they want to win, the Fever must choose vision before comfort. And right now, Clark is the vision. It's essential to adapt. She has to pass the ball when she calls for it. Instead of limiting her, this calls for coaching. Instead than encouraging her to alter who she is in order to fit in with someone else's, it involves concentrating the system on her strengths. A front office also needs to stop playing both sides. Right now, Indiana is caught in the middle. Make an effort to both satisfy its veterans and profit off the excitement Clark generates. But that isn't sustainable. You risk losing her after her rookie contract expires if you don't invest in her generational talent. Not to mention that Clark has options. She already enjoys widespread recognition. She may move out of Indiana and keep dominating headlines, merchandise, and sponsorships. If she stays, though, it must be because this team was built with her in mind rather than the other way around. Let's also talk about how the league as a whole was impacted by that brawl at halftime. The moment that video surfaced on social media, podcasts, TikTok edits, and debate shows, all of which tell different stories, it went global. Clark is portrayed by some as an ungrateful newbie who disobeys authority. Because she finally demanded accountability and direction, others called her a breath of fresh air. But there was no denying that she did move the needle once more. Because that kind of cultural weight involves both opportunity and responsibility, this is where things start to get interesting. Clark is doing more than just shaping her team's personalities. She is altering the discourse on women's basketball coaching, coverage, and consumption. She is proving that WNBA players are capable of having goals, debates, and ideas. This is leadership, not diva behavior. Think about the way we cover NBA players. We don't blink, Luka Doncic yells at Jason Kidd. We recognize that disagreement is an essential part of intense competition. But when Caitlin Clark does the same, it garners media attention. It's a scandal. It's disrespectful. The loud double standard is being confronted by Clark. But there will definitely be resistance to that challenge. From commentators who believe rookies will be grateful and silent to coaches who see a challenge to their authority. From supporters who want her to follow her own path. But in reality, she doesn't have a lane. She is building a road. The most ironic thing is that the Fever are now playing better basketball following that altercation. The offense is much more laid back. The speed has increased. Without the ball, players are actually moving, and the team is scoring goals more efficiently. It's like a surprise. When you trust your generational point guard, your team performs better. This is what's going to occur next. If the Indiana Fever are serious about winning games, not just tickets and clicks, they need to have some tough conversations. They have to decide if Stephanie White is the ideal coach for this club going forward. They have to decide if this core should include veterans who are resistant to change. They also need to provide Caitlin Clark both freedom and support since no one succeeds in limbo. You can either empower your star or turn into the squad that had her and let her leave. Let's talk about the rippling effect because of Caitlin Clark's outburst at her coach. That wasn't just a Fever problem. Coaches and general managers in WNBA locker rooms had to sit up and ask themselves one simple question once the league as a whole heard that broadcast alert. Are we going to be the next? Because it changes the league's gravity when a player with Clark's stature, popularity, and brand equity takes that type of narrative control. Not only is she enjoying herself, but she is also rewriting the power system. There is more to this than just basketball. Let's be precise. It has to do with media, attention economy, and branding. Tickets are expensive and jerseys sell out every time Caitlin Clark visits a new city. Local news outlets that haven't covered the WNBA in 10 years suddenly send cameras. She is the first athlete in years to influence markets outside of basketball. She has some impact off the court since the league and sponsors pay attention to her when she speaks, whether at a press conference or, yes, at a heated halftime moment. Check out the Fever Game's current packaging. During prime time, they are being covered. The WNBA is now included in ESPN panelists' rundowns. Not because the league's quality was finally acknowledged, but rather because Caitlin Clark's existence made it difficult to ignore. Let's talk about brand deals as well. Do you really think Nike dropped a customized sneaker for a rookie just because she's good at threes?
No.
They chose not to forward with the deal since Clark creates conflict and narrative identity. Three things are the passions of marketers. Her brand was untouched by the incident at Halheim. It built it. It proved she's not just here to take pictures and smile. She wants to win, and you can sell that storyline. But this also raises the stakes for the Fever organization. You now have a player who increases your team's overall financial impact in addition to your box score. If you're not making the most of that, you're not just failing her. If you're utilizing outdated sets that restrict her potential, you're also failing your partners, investors, and fans. In relation to fans, let's discuss the new audience that Clark is drawing in. Both casuals and diehards are drawn to her. She attracts college fans who have never watched a WNBA game. She attracts people who are more interested in numbers and vibes. It's not a terrible thing because this league has long deserved greater attention. And Clark is pulling them in whether they want to or not. But new eyes also mean new expectations. People want motion offenses, highlight plays, emotive athletes, and fast-paced drama. They don't want to see 17 straight post-ups or 30-second shot clock grinds that end with forced jumpers. They want to move quickly. They're trying to find flair. They also want to make their celebrity more powerful. This makes the Fever's current approach seem out of date. You have a group that continuously dims the lights and a league that is finally receiving notice. That must be changed. Caitlin Clark's recent actions in Indiana are being observed by other athletes. Let's pan out now. Young guards on rebuilding teams and veterans who can't pass are stranded behind second-year forwards. They are watching how Clark uses her voice and how her franchise responds. If the offense, the coaching, and the Fever backer are all altered, there will be a fresh surge of player empowerment. Not because they have given in, but because they know they can. Other stars will start to make system demands. Clark just shown that it is possible. But if they ignore her and bury her talent in inadequate spacing and outdated play calling, the Fever will set a dangerous precedent. If the NBA ordered other rookies to keep quiet and tiny, it would be a major missed opportunity since this is the reality. The claim that Caitlin Clark is a unicorn is untrue. She is the first of many. The pipeline is full. A wave is approaching. Hannah Hidalgo, Paige Beckers, and Guju Watkins. These women will also not pretend to be kind in order to get popularity. They grew up watching LeBron make choices in Los Angeles. They have seen Steph Curry reimagine an offensive plan. They understand that stars are shaped like systems, not the other way around. And the WNBA has to make a decision. You risk losing them if you don't adapt to them. Not just in video games, but in real life as well. Let's talk about Coach Stephanie White again now. To examine, not to condemn. She is an excellent coach. She is a character from the first season. But sometimes that might be the problem. Coaches that are decades old often rely on what has worked in the past. They envision chaos when they watch fast-paced basketball. They detect logo threes and think irrationally. When kids see players barking during huddles, they interpret it as disobedience. What they lack, nevertheless, is the formation of leadership. Clark's tantrum at halftime had nothing to do with ego. It is related to urgency. It was about saying, "We can win if you let us." Leadership is that, yes, messy, it's emotional, but it's real, and if White or any coach can't accept it, they will keep losing the locker room one star at a time. There hasn't been enough talk about this. Clark's confrontation could have prevented a Fever season. Sometimes things need to break before they can be fixed. There are times when the communication portion needs to be spoken aloud. That's what Clark did. She disclosed that everyone was already under stress. And there is a path forward now that the company has no more excuses. They've seen what happens when they adopt a Clark-style approach. You are given 99 points. There's room for you. You feel fluidity. You get results. How are they going to use the information? After that, tuck it under the rug. May finally develop a system that grants her total authority. The destiny of this franchise for the next 3 years will depend on the choice they choose. The worst thing is this. Maybe the next time Clark loses it, it won't be during a game. Stars don't hold out forever. Therefore, it might occur at a contract meeting, during a trade demand, or during the off-season. Not in the current game. Not when they know how valuable they are. Not with everyone watching. The court is where you are sitting. The audience is captivating. The cameras are moving. Then, as halftime draws near, bam! Tension is rising. It is more than just a disagreement. It goes beyond a straightforward miscommunication. It's a conflict. Head coach Stephanie White is being yelled at by Caitlin Clark, the face of the new WNBA. And everyone in the league is watching. It doesn't seem like a special occasion. It appears to be the outcome of weeks or perhaps months of mounting strain, missed potential, and an attitude so inconsistent that they might as well be playing 2 different games. This goes beyond a single game. Identity is at stake here, let's be honest. Who is responsible for the Indiana Fever? Either the old guard adhering to structure or the phenomenon altering the rules. Behind the scenes.